Imagine attending a funeral to only realize it's your own. The flowers, the tears, the mourners. But how could this be possible? You're standing right there watching it all unfold. In 2015 in Melbourne, Australia, Noela's beloved husband, Belenga Kalala, is surrounded by friends and family, all mourning her death. But little does he know, Noela is very much alive. Noela and Belenga's story began years earlier when they both came to Australia as refugees. They built a life together, had children, and life was picture perfect. Or so it looked. This is the true story of Noela Rukundo, the woman who crashed her own wake. Welcome to my channel, a safe place where we can dive into the strange and mysterious, true crime, makeup, and chill, with new videos every Sunday. January 2015, Noela Rukundo was dealing with some really heavy stuff. Her stepmother had passed away and Noela was heading to her homeland in Burundi, which is located in the east central of Africa. This trip will symbolize her final farewell to the woman who she treasured dearly. As you and I know, funerals are tough on their own, but even more so when you have to travel halfway across the world just to attend them. So there's Noela, packing her bags in Melbourne, Australia, getting ready for this long, emotional trip. We're doing the old double coats today because I've got pimples on pimples. And you know what? This probably isn't helping, but YOLO. Double coat, covering up all those insecurities. Bye-bye, insecurities. Bye-bye. Thank you very much. So Noela arrives in Burundi, emotionally drained and jet-lagged. She's at a hotel in Bujumbura, probably just wanting to crash and get some sleep before the funeral. Well, Noela decided to phone her husband. He was being the most perfect support person that every partner should be when their wife is going through such a hard emotional time. He was concerned and caring, telling Noela to take care of herself, He was really worried about her. So you know what he did? He suggested that she step outside of her hotel and just get some fresh air and clear her head. She was so grateful for her husband, who had seemed to step up to the plate when she so desperately needed him to. Fresh air sounded just the perfect idea, and it's probably exactly what she needed, just to, release all the stress, stepping outside and fresh air. So Noela, she steps outside the hotel, and that's when things get crazy. Suddenly she sees a car pull up and is abruptly confronted by a man with a gun, like she wasn't already stressed enough without all of this hoo-ha. And then the man, he threatens her, saying, quote, "If you start screaming, I will shoot you. They're going to catch me, but you will already be dead." Excuse me, sir? So now she's staring right down the barrel of a gun. The man points to the car and says, "See that car? Go slowly and get in." Of course she's going to get in. You'd get in too. I'd be in, seatbelt on, ready to go. The car that the man pointed to, it was full of other men. Yeah, like a gang. And the men, they blindfolded Noela, and then they took her in the car to a secret location. Noela would find out that this wasn't some random act of violence. This wasn't a mugging gone wrong or being in the wrong place at the wrong time. No, this was something evil and felt much more personal. As Noela was sitting in the dark, blindfolded, her mind must have been racing. Who are these people? What do they want? Why is this happening to me? But little did she know, the answer to all those questions was much closer to home than she could have ever imagined. How does Noela go from being kidnapped at gunpoint in Burundi to crashing her own funeral in Australia? The kidnapper starts asking Noela, "What did you do for this man to pay us to kill you?" Noela asked the men, like, what are you talking about? They go on to tell Noela that their boss had sent them to kidnap her and kill her. The gang's leader pulled something out of his pocket and she's freaking out thinking, man, I'm dead. This is it. But what he pulled out was a cell phone. He punches in the number and put the phone on speaker. The voice that she heard was one that she had heard many times before, but never did she expect to hear what happened next. The voice spoke chilling words, kill her. Poor Noela, she fainted. Yeah, she did. You see, the man's voice was none other than the man who vowed to love her in sickness and in health till death do they part. Yep, you heard that right. Her husband, Belenga Kalala. When Noela came to, she must have felt like she was living in a nightmare. But here's the twist. A twist that would end up saving her life. The kidnappers, despite being hired to kill her, decided that they couldn't go through with it. Why? Well, it turns out that they had some bizarre moral code. They told Noela, we don't kill women and children. Instead of killing her, they came up with a new plan, one that would land them, the bad guys or good guys, however you look at it. Now they're on Noela's side. They decided to extort more money from Kalala, telling him that the fee for the hit had gone up to $10,000 because it was messy. I know, talk about freaking lucky, right? But Noela, she wasn't out of danger just yet. The kidnappers, they gave her an ultimatum. They said, we give you 80 hours to leave this country. Imagine that. You've just found out that your husband wants you dead. You've been kidnapped and now you're being told to flee the country. This is some serious Hollywood-ish. How could the man that she loved, the father of her children, want her dead? What had she done to deserve this? And what was she going to do now? She knew that she had to get back to Australia, but she also knew that she couldn't just show up at home. After all, her husband thought she was dead. And that's when an idea started to form. An idea that would lead to one of the most shocking confrontations you could ever imagine. Noela, she sat there planning her next move. She's planning for her comeback. And let me tell you, it's going to be epic. She knew she had to get back to Australia and she knew she had to do it without tipping off Kalala. Because let's face it, if he found out that she was alive, who knows what he might try next. Now, here's where things get interesting. Remember those kidnappers? The ones who decided not to kill Noela? Well, they didn't just let her go. They gave her a parting gift. And no, I'm not talking about a lousy t-shirt or a keychain. They gave her evidence. These guys had recorded phone calls with Kalala. Calls where he was literally ordering a hit on his wife. She knew that with these recordings, she had the power to take Kalala down. So Noela started planning her return like a secret agent. She contacted her pastor back in Melbourne, telling him that she was alive, she needed help. And now she was ready to face her husband. She wanted Kalala to face the consequences of his actions, and not just for her sake, but for the sake of her children. Because let's not forget, this man wasn't just Noela's husband. He was a father too. So Noela, she's just boarded the plane to go back to Australia. February 22nd, 2015 in Melbourne, Australia. The sun is shining, birds are chirping, and Noela Rukundo is about to pull off the most epic I'm not dead yet moment since Monty Python. Just going to do my liner off of camera and I'll be right back. As Noela's car pulls up to the house, she can see people leaving. They're dressed in black, looking all somber and teary-eyed. And why wouldn't they be? They've just been to her funeral. Yeah, you heard that right. Her own funeral. Noela sits in the car, watching, waiting, probably thinking about all the times that her and her husband spent in that house. The good times, the bad times, and the I can't believe you tried to have me murdered times, you know? Typical married couple stuff. Finally, she sees him, Kalala, the man that she once loved, the father of her children, and now apparently the organizer of her death. He's standing there probably thinking he's gotten away with the perfect crime, but little does he know, he's about to get the shock of his life. Noela steps out of the car, adrenaline pumping through her veins. The mix of fear, anger, and let's be honest, a little bit of I can't wait to see the look on his face excitement. She walks up to Kalala. He sees her and his reaction, well, let's just say it's not exactly the warm welcome you'd expect for a wife returning home from a trip. Kalala's eyes go wide. He puts his hands on his head and starts screaming, "It's a ghost!" Because, yeah, that's a totally normal reaction when you see your not actually dead wife standing in front of you. Now, Noela, she could have said a lot of things in this moment. She could have unleashed all her anger and her hurt, but instead she goes for the understatement of the century. "Surprise!" she says, "I'm still alive." Meanwhile, Kalala, he's losing it. He's touching Noela's shoulder, probably trying to figure out if she's real or if he's staring in some weird Aussie version of Ghost. He's screaming, "I'm sorry for everything," which, let's be real, is probably not going to cut it in this situation. Noela, she had just come back from the dead, or so everyone else was concerned. But wait, for real, can you imagine being a guest at this wake and seeing the girl who's meant to be passed away standing there? Our girl Noela, she wasn't just there for the dramatic reveal. She had a plan. Remember those recordings the kidnappers gave her? The ones where Kalala is literally ordering a hit on her? Yeah, those are about to come in real handy. As Kalala is freaking out, trying to figure out how to explain this whole surprise you're not dead situation to all the funeral guests, Noela is preparing herself for what's to come next. So there's Noela standing in front of her shell-shocked husband who's just seen a ghost. But this isn't some paranormal activity. It's justice about to be served. Piping hot. Now, you might think Noela would take a moment to enjoy this epic mic drop moment, but nope, she's all about her business. As soon as she's finished giving Kalala the shock of his life, she got on the phone to the police. The cops show up expecting a normal dispute, routine call, right? Instead, they walk into a scene straight out of the days of our lives. A woman presumed dead, a husband looking like he's seen a ghost, and a bunch of confused funeral guests wondering if they can still eat the catering. When the police start questioning Kalala, this guy has the audacity to deny everything. I mean, come on, dude. Your dead wife is standing right there and you're still trying to play innocent? That's like getting caught with your hand in a cookie jar and saying, "What cookies?" Kalala, he must have felt like he was the master of deception. But Noela, she had an ace up her sleeve. Those recordings the kidnappers gave her, yeah, it was time to play those bad boys. As soon as Kalala heard his own voice ordering the hit on Noela, his face dropped faster than a lead balloon. Game over, my friend. You're busted with a capital B. But even after being caught red-handed, Kalala still had one more trick up his sleeve. And let me tell you, it's a doozy. When asked why he tried to have his wife killed, Kalala came out with this gem. "Sometimes the devil can come into something to do something." Right. I'm sorry, what? The devil made you do it? That's not an explanation. That's the plot of a bad horror movie. I mean, I've heard of blaming your problems on someone else, but blaming them on the actual devil? Wild. On December 11th, 2015, Kalala found himself in front of a judge. The judge wasn't buying any of Kalala's excuses. They took one look at the evidence, heard about the premeditated nature of the crime, and came down on Kalala with a ton of bricks. 9 years in prison. Yeah, I thought he should have got more too. Kalala was eligible for parole after serving 6 years. 6 years for trying to have your wife murdered? I don't know about you, but that seems like a pretty sweet deal for attempted murder. Noela could finally breathe easy. Or so she thought. But life had other plans for her. Kalala and Noela were a part of the Congolese community in Melbourne. It just so turns out that some of them weren't too happy with Noela for, not staying dead like she was supposed to. I know, it sounds crazy, but here's the thing. In some cultures, loyalty to the community can sometimes outweigh everything else, even attempted murder. So instead of rallying around Noela, some people actually turned against her. The woman survives a hit ordered by her own husband, and she's the one getting looked down on. Noela, she started receiving threats. Not just your run-of-the-mill mean comments, but serious, scary stuff. She'd come home to find her back door broken. She would receive text messages making her fear for her safety. It's like she'd stepped out of one nightmare and straight into another. That's enough to make anyone want to curl up in a ball and hide from the world. In one of her reflecting moments, Noela shared how isolating the whole experience was. She said, "I felt so alone. The people I thought would support me were the ones turning their backs on me." What a horrible situation for anyone to be in, especially when you literally had nothing to do with any of it. Kalala, the husband who tried to have her killed, well, Noela, she had something to say about him that might surprise you. Are you ready for this? She said, "From my heart, I forgive him. Let God judge him. Forgive him after everything he did." But that's just who Noela is. She's not letting hate and anger consume her. Instead, she chose to move forward to focus on her children and her new life. Noela's story isn't just about her, it's about all of us. It makes us ask ourselves, how would we react if our world turned upside down? Could we find the strength to keep going? The answer should always be yes. If you or anyone you know is going through a hard time, remember, you are valued, you are worthy, and you are so special, even if you can't see it all the time. Kia kaha. These Māori words translate to be strong. Well, I can finally say a story with a not so sad ending. These true crime stories can sometimes take its toll when it's all I'm researching. I am a true crime junkie, don't get me wrong. However, I would like to introduce a new type of content to my channel, which doesn't always have to be a negative impact on you. Every fourth video of the month will be a makeup miracles video, which will be based on unexplainable miracles that have happened to people all around the world. Things so unexplainable that they will make you question reality. After all, fact is often stranger than fiction, right? Once again, thank you so much for hanging out with me today. We have officially hit 1K subs, and it's all thanks to you. If you like this video, please hit the thumbs up, and if you really, really liked it, maybe you can subscribe so we can hang out again. Feel free to reach out to me via my Instagram at Tana the Makeup Artist, or on TikTok at Tana the Makeup Artist also. Well, that's it from me. Until next Sunday. Have a safe and happy week. And remember, you take care out on those streets. Hey sis, thank you so much for hanging out with me today. You know, we can keep hanging out if you want. All you have to do is tap this true crime and makeup playlist.